everybody, welcome back to Q-Tips. We are the Video Store Junkies, and we are back once again to bring you some amazing selections in the new year of 2023. And we're going to get this going, and I'm going to kick it over to Bill.
Oh, hey, thank you. Hope everybody had a great Christmas and a good New Year. My theme for this week is sort of crazy big movies by great filmmakers that kind of bombed. And the first one is from 1955, directed by one of my favorites, Howard Hawks. One of his stranger movies, atypical Howard Hawks movie. It's Land of the Pharaohs, which you can see on Turner Classic Movies. Okay, so Land of the Pharaohs is one of these epic historical drama movies that they made back in the 50s. You know, it was in CinemaScope. It had a cast of thousands. There's a scene that has like 10,000 people, half of them the Egyptian army. And it's got a no-name cast except for Joan Collins, who plays the evil, conniving Queen of Egypt. She's not very good, but she's about as good as it gets in this movie. It didn't do very well. One of the reasons, the cast, this is, you need the right people to sell these things. You need a Charlton Heston. You need someone who can say these lines and not be silly. But none of these people can pull that off. And the lines are not very good, which is all the sadder because one of the writers is William Faulkner. Yes, the guy that they forced you to read in high school, one of the greatest novelists of our time. It's a sad story. He went out to Hollywood and basically watched Barton Fink. You'll see how that went. It went terribly. But it is one of those movies where I feel like, and Howard Hawks would give interviews, and whenever they asked him about it, like, what the hell was this all going on here? His reply was along the lines of, we had a lot of fun making it. And by God, I admire that. I mean, clearly they went out to Egypt, lots of shenanigans. You're out in the middle of the desert, you're spending other people's money like crazy, there's half-dressed dancing girls, and they had a great time making this. The movie's not that good. It's about a pharaoh who loves gold and knows that he's going to die, as we all will, but he wants to take it all with him, but he knows that every pharaoh who gets buried, people come and steal his gold. Unless you're lucky and get buried in a sandstorm like King Tut, it doesn't work out. So he conquered some slaves who put up a really good fight in this place, and they know what they're doing. They got an engineer, and he figures out how to make a pyramid that will be absolutely robbery proof. And then he meets Joan Collins, and everything goes straight to hell because she's really, really evil, and she wants the gold for herself. She does not want to have it buried with him. The movie goes on and on and on and on and on. For a big budget movie, there's not a lot going on. Like, yeah, they have big sets and everything, but I want a battle sequence. I want something going on. It's like they have, oh, you just came back from a battle. You should have seen it. Yes, I should have seen it. Why didn't I see it? But it's all is forgiven in the last 15 minutes of this movie. When finally the king, the pharaoh has been murdered by his evil wife, and she's there rubbing her hands about all the gold she's going to get as they bury him. And that's when his best friend, the high priest, sets the thing in motion that causes the thing to be entombed. And it's great. Did you ever play the game Mousetrap?
Oh, yeah.
Really? I'm amazed by that because it was a terrible game. But
the little thing with the little thing and the thing.
Yeah, right. The whole game was this long, ridiculous game that you would build this Rube Goldberg contraption, and then at the very end you would set it, and you quickly realized the game was lame as bleep. But the Rube Goldberg thing was pretty good, so after a while we just threw away the rules of the game and just built that and did it and prayed to the gods that they would invent cable TV one day, because that was about as good as it got in the 60s. That's sort of what happens here. It's this crazy contraption of sliding boulders and sand filling up that causes this to move, and then a guy gets kicked into a tub and a bowling ball goes down. I don't know. All kinds of cool stuff happens, and that's the end of the movie. It totally makes everything worth it. However, the movie did not make its money back. It cost $3 million back in 1955, big money, and they ended up about $500,000 short. So it was Howard Hawks' first and one of his only commercial failures. But he came back strong a few years later with, I think, Rio Bravo. But definitely worth watching. They don't make them like that anymore. So a wonderful glimpse into those early days when you could just get away with murder. Speaking of the ones they don't make like that anymore, they don't make dames like Renee anymore. So I throw this to Renee.
Oh my gosh! So my first selection, I really don't have a theme, but it kind of works with what you mentioned, where it had. Well, I don't know. I was gonna say sorry. I started drinking earlier. Anyway, so anyway, my first suggestion, it had a good ending, and I feel like you said that your movie had a good ending, so I'm going with that. So my first suggestion is a movie called Dark Was the Night, and and so it's this small town, and it was disrupted by, once again, a new to the community logging company. Why do they always do this shit? I don't know. But they awoke something, and it is going to basically be up to the embattled sheriff and his deputy to kind of figure out what's going on and help the town. And the deputy is played by Lucas Haas, and I don't know if anybody remembers him. He was in The Witness.
Yeah.
He was the kid in The Witness. Anyway, so you'll see it and be like, oh, I know that guy. There you go. That's him. So, sorry, I don't really have a lot to give you. It was good. It's on Tubi and on Amazon Prime and Pluto and Roku, and so it's called Dark Was the Night, and it was an interesting movie, and I don't really want to. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
And then this part I'm going to cut out. I'll tell you, Bill. It was like one of the very few Wendigo type movies.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I'm like, you never see Wendigo movies.
No, you don't. And when you do, you wish you hadn't.
It's so true. This
they
one
hardly
wasn't
ever
like
get it
the
right.
worst, but I could have just been like in the mood for it. So that's why I'm just like, yeah, it was all right. Or maybe the other movies I watched were just that bad. Anyway. So yeah, that's my suggestion. So I'll throw it now over to Zach.
Oh, thank you, Renee. So, it's the new year. We all, well, I was going to say we all partied pretty hard. Apparently, you're still partying. That's fine. You've earned it, I think. But hey, you know what? For some of us, the party has not ended, in fact. So why not ring in the new year, or the second weekend of the new year, with some party movies? And in fact, I'm going to start this one off with a film. Maybe it would have been more appropriate to recommend last week for the new year, but I don't think it was on streaming. But it is now, so I'm going to recommend it now. This is a film that was released in 1995, and it's set in the far-flung future of New Year's Eve 1999, which apparently they decided that there were going to be a bunch of technological advances in 4 years between this movie coming out and when it's set. But the premise of the film is that the government has created technology that allows you to record and play back memories. And so, of course, this has become a hot black market item in traditional cyberpunk fashion. And now there's a guy who deals in these memories, played by Ralph Fiennes. And let's just say that he finds himself in some hot water when he finds himself in possession of some memories that the government, the man, doesn't want him to have. Ooh. The film I am talking about is, of course, Strange Days. And if you've never heard of this one, well, don't be surprised, even though it's got a stellar cast. It's like I said, Ralph Fiennes is in it. You've also got Juliette Lewis, Tom Sizemore, who's a piece of shit, but he was a good actor at one point. Michael Wincott's in it, and Vincent D'Onofrio, and William Fichtner, who I love. And I can't help but mention, last but not least, Angela Bassett, who is freaking shredded in this movie. She is jacked. She looks good. So this film was also directed by Catherine Bigelow, who is coming hot off of Point Break. Yeah. Point Break. She would go on to direct The Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30. It's also produced and
Near Dark.
Near Dark, yes, that was, I believe, her first film. And this one was co-written and produced by, I believe, her then husband, an obscure little filmmaker you may have heard of, named James Cameron. Cameron. Yeah, I know. Go look him up. Look him up.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, he directed
Piranha 2.
Piranha 2. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
That's what he's best known for.
I
Otherwise,
love Piranha. Yeah.
that's I believe his most successful film set in or on the water.
I wish he would do a sequel.
So yeah, this one is, it's kind of a weird movie. The reason I'm recommending it is not because I think it's a great movie, but I think it's an interesting movie, kind of giving the creative talent behind it. It's also like, it obviously owes a lot to William Gibson and his work. So if you're a fan of his like 90s novels, you might enjoy it. But it's also, the cyberpunk genre has not been super successful, The Matrix notwithstanding, at the cinema. And this one, I think, pretty much bombed. Speaking of successful filmmakers making films that bomb, this one basically kind of came out and disappeared. So it's a bit of a cult classic, because I know that a lot of people really love this movie. And yeah, like I said, I personally, I don't know if it's a great movie, but it's definitely worth watching. It's interesting if you're into noir and cyberpunk and that sort of thing. It's worth a watch. And speaking of things that I don't know are
worth watching.
Worth watching, I don't know. Yeah, I'll just throw this over to Bill for his recommendation.
Thank you. Good segue. Okay, so this next movie is one of my favorites. I have been championing this movie since it was recommended to me by my good friend Brian Haig. I will never forgive him for this. It's from 1930, directed by Cecil D. Frickin' Manil. It's called Madam Satan, and you've probably never heard of it, for excellent reasons. One, it bombed. It did terribly. It's the strangest Cecil B. DeMille movie ever made. It's one of the strangest movies ever made. It's a pre-code musical comedy. I love pre-code movies because, man, they got away with some stuff. Boy, did they get away with things. You'd think the folks back then were like a bunch of stick-up-your-butt, stuffy-nosed people. Well, no. The folks in charge were, but the paying audience wanted the goods. And man, they got it. They got nudity. They got, adultery. They got all kinds of perversions. It's great.
I am gonna love this movie.
Yeah, Madam Satan is okay. So it's about a pretty well-to-do society dame whose husband is totally straying on her with Trixie, a showgirl. And there's no pussyfooting around here. He is sleeping with her. 100%, and everyone knows it, and the movie goes out of its way, and of course she blames herself because, I guess things have gotten a little tired there, so she comes up with the perfect solution. They're going to have a big masquerade ball on a Zeppelin. Okay, take my money. I love Zeppelins. I wish they'd never gone away. I understand the whole Hindenburg thing was a downer, but Zeppelins are the bomb. And every movie with a Zeppelin is better for having a Zeppelin in it. They were going to make a movie, Hammer was going to make a movie called Pterodactyls versus Zeppelins.
Nuh-uh.
What? Yes. No, actually, I'm wrong. It was called Zeppelins versus Pterodactyls. Oh my God. How did that movie not get made? It's like, what was it about? What do you mean, what was it about? It's called Zeppelins versus Pterodactyls. What do you want?
I would have watched that movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, well, this one, they're going to have a big, it's New Year's Day, so this is actually very timely. They're going to have a big party on this Zeppelin. And our heroine is going to dress up as the mysterious devil woman, Madam Satan, and she's going to win back her husband's love by pretending to be someone else.
Oh.
I love those plots. You see that a lot in comic books.
Pina colada song.
Yeah, yes, the pina colada song. You see this in TV all the time, and I think, wow, what kind of universe are they living in where this is a good idea? You're gonna laugh about that years later. Do you remember the time I tricked you into having an adulterous affair, and it turned out to be me? Oh, how we laughed. Okay, so she shows up, and I just want to say the costumes in this movie, especially the Madam Satan costume, will make Lady Gaga ashamed of her poker face. This stuff is so mind-bogglingly crazy, amazingly sexy, super revealing. I don't know how they kept those dresses on and everything, but one after another, everyone is dressed to the nines. In the middle of the movie, just to announce that it's almost time for New Year's Day, a bunch of women come out dressed as clocks and start banging themselves on the head where they've got bells on. And it's there, I'm not kidding, it's there for maybe 6 seconds. And then we never see it again, and it's never referred to again. And I'm just like, who has been slipping drugs in my drinks, and where can I get more of it? It's amazing, this movie. There's a whole song and dance sequence devoted to the wonder of electricity, which I guess was pretty big stuff back in 1930. Like, what is this electricity thing? Is it going to catch on, or is it like the metaverse? We're going to hear about it, then it's going to go away. It's going to be like Google Glasses. I don't know. I mean, it's unbelievable. But here's the tragedy. Here's the thing about this. You're watching this gorgeous movie, razor sharp cinematography, and you're thinking to yourself, boy, this is just so beautiful. I wonder what it would have been like in color. And they filmed it in color, in Technicolor. All the scenes on the Zeppelin, which is about 3/4 of the film and the only part that's really good, were filmed in Technicolor, but they've been lost. And like, what do you mean they were lost? Well, apparently word got out that a few Technicolor movies had bombed. And so the studio heads, who then, as now, are a bunch of poo-flinging chimpanzees, got it in their empty little noggins that people just weren't really into color. Yeah, that was the problem with the movies. They just didn't like color. So they kind of burned all the color sequences, and now all we have left is the black and white. Who are these morons that were given the keys to Hollywood? I mean, this keeps happening, right? John Carter of Mars bombs, and they blamed Mars. They literally blame Mars. Say, Mars. Yeah, you know what? We did a movie called Mars Needs Moms, and that didn't do well either. So I think there's a problem with the word Mars. Yeah, that was the problem with Mars Needs Moms. You moron.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Madam Satan is, as far as I know, it's not available on any streaming. Every now and then it shows up on YouTube. It's in some way, I don't know who owns the rights to it, but you can rent it on Apple TV. And I urge you, if you got to get a gray market copy, just get the best copy you can. This is not something you want to watch blurry. It's no good blurry. Watch it at its best. I don't know what anyone involved with this movie was thinking when they made it, but thank God they did. And thank you, Brian, once again for inflicting this on me. I will go to my grave loving this film. This horrible, terrible, terrible film that is just so wonderful.
I love that.
And speaking of wonderful, I throw this back to Renee.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I know what I'm doing tonight. So, my next movie is another amazing movie that I found on Tubi. I do these things for you guys.
Oh, God.
Not you guys, but our listeners. Because honestly, like if you guys watch some of these movies I recommend and you're like, oh, this kind of sucks, you should see the ones I don't recommend, because those movies are bad. Anyhow, so this movie, it caught my eye because basically because of the name. It's called Arctic Void. Who doesn't love an Arctic Void? So yeah, and it has Michael Weaver. Michael Weaver acts it. He's in it, and he also wrote and produced the movie. You might not recognize him, just by his name. You might recognize him if you see him, but he had a role in Super Troopers as a local police officer who was trying to get the attention of a bear fucker. So you may or may not remember him from the bear fucker scene in Super Troopers. Anyway, he's a little ginger cutie, so you might enjoy that. So there's a group of tourists that get on this, it's like this Arctic tour boat, and they're just going around and checking out all the icebergs and all the shit that's going on. And suddenly, like, what's a good 75% of them just nope out. They're just gone. They just vanish. And there's these two guys, Michael Weaver and his, I think he's the cameraman. They work on this like nature travel show together. And this other gentleman that they're there with, it's basically these three guys that are just left trying to figure out what the hell happened and where did everybody go. And they find this nearby kind of island that they managed to get on. But it's very interesting. I will be completely honest with you. I liked the beginning. I liked the end. I was kind of doing other stuff, so I'm not 100% sure exactly what all happened through the middle. But I like the beginning and I like the end, so I'm going to go for it. So yeah, this movie is called Arctic Void, and it's available on Tubi, and Redbox. And so now I'll pass this over to Zach.
Well, thanks again, Renee. I actually just realized that I failed to mention that Strange Days is playing on HBO Max. So if you want to watch that movie, yeah, hopefully people weren't just waiting in suspense to find out where they could find that.
I was.
Whoa, I'm sorry. Well, hey, guess what, though? You know, the party is not over when you're done watching Strange Days, because I have another party film lined up. And actually, again, a film that I probably should have recommended a few weeks ago, because this is technically a Christmas film. And no, I'm not one of those dumbasses who's talking about Die Hard, because that's a meme that has to die. But no, I'm talking about a movie, very simply named film. The name of the movie is Go. And I don't know why it's called that. But so the premise of the film is Sarah Polley plays a grocery store cashier who is trying to get some money by filling in for her drug dealer coworker when a couple guys played by Scott Wolf, who we talked about extensively on our Double Dragon episode, and Jay Moore come by looking for some drugs, and she decides to act as their drug dealer to make some money. Believe it or not, things do not go as planned. Love this movie. It's got kind of a crazy like 3-part structure to it, where the narrative kind of jumps back and forth. But it's got a great kind of frenetic energy to it. Got great cast. Like I said, I mean, Sarah Polley. I mean, I love Sarah Polley so much. But also, Jay Moore, Katie Holmes is in it. She's fine, whatever. But then Timothy Oliphant, and I think one of the earliest things I've seen him in. And then also William Fichtner. A theme. Look at that. You can watch 2 William Fichtner films. I love him in this movie so much because he plays such a weird, like, super creepy cop, and I just love it so much. I think William Fichtner honestly is one of the most underrated actors of all time.
Yeah,
and
he's awesome.
Every time he shows up, I just love him so much. Rounding out the cast, you've also got Taye Diggs, Breckin Meyer, and a very, very brief appearance by Melissa McCarthy. So, like I said, great cast, great fun movie. And this one is, if you're in the mood for a fun party movie, then check out Go. And I will actually remember to tell you where to see this one. It is currently playing on Showtime and Fubo. And speaking of going, I think we're going, aren't we? Is that it? Is that the end of the show?
I think it is.
Yeah. Are you gonna sing us out?
Oh man, I should have looked up the lyrics to Strange Days.
You sure you don't remember them?
I did not know that Paul was not going to be here. So I did not actually think that I was going to have to sing anything. But let's see. Let's look up the lyrics. And I don't know the tune, so let's make up a new one. Okay, this is "Strange Days" by The Doors. Strange days have found us. Strange days have tracked us down. They're going to destroy our casual joys. We shall go on playing or find a new town. Yeah, that's the tune, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow. if you ask me what band were you referencing there, I think it would be years before I would get to The Doors. Even though I would probably try to guess by alphabetical order, and it would still be years before The Doors got mentioned.
Oh, there you go. Good luck editing that together, Renee.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.